So at the crime scene, which was the hotel room, Cynthia's body was found naked and lying on the bed. She was lying in a horizontal position and she was naked. Her hands were tied to the back using a brown tape. Her legs were also bound together using a brown tape. Her face was looking normal, but her mouth was also covered with a brown tape. Inside the mouth was a hairnet and a handkerchief, probably to stop her from screaming and calling out for help. That was the crime scene. Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining another episode of Real Crimes with me. Okay, so in today's story we are going to Nigeria. Nigeria is in West Africa. Okay, so we are going to Nigeria and we are going to talk about a crime that really did hit Nigeria by surprise. Not necessarily by surprise because it was something new, but because it came out. It wasn't something new. It had happened before, but nobody had reported such a crime. So this time, yeah, it did come out and it opened a whole can of worms. Right. So there was a lady called Cynthia in Nigeria. She was born in 1987 and she was the daughter of a retired Major General in the army, and her mom was Mama Joy Rita. Okay, so Cynthia grew up like a normal child, but she was very kind. She was described to be a very kind person, very hardworking, very principled. So fast forward to her early, I would call it early adult life. Cynthia graduated with a degree in languages, specializing in English. Then she also became a model at one stage, which she stopped. She worked for MTN and then she resigned and started pursuing her master's degree in public administration at the same institution that she did her undergrad. What a clever girl. Also, Cynthia had a boutique that sold clothes from the US. Now, this is where the whole mess started from. She ran a boutique. She was advertising her stuff online. She was advertising her business online and obviously photos of herself and probably her daily life. And this was Facebook era. Not much of Instagram, not much of all these other platforms that are there today, but this was a Facebook era. And this was 2012, okay, when this whole mess started. Cynthia was only 24 by then. Young, bright, hardworking, organized, focused, bright future. Yes, bright future. That's all we could say about Cynthia. She had a bright future ahead of her. So while Cynthia is doing this boutique business, she had a relative who was sending her clothes from the US, who was buying on her behalf, what we now call a runner. All right, but while she was on Facebook, she befriended some guy. Yeah. This guy was called Okumi. Ooh, probably bad pronunciation, right? But anyway, over a period of 4 months, Cynthia and Mr. O were talking and they were chatting back and forth on Facebook and also BlackBerry Messenger, what we call BBM. Yeah, it was famous then. This was 2012, remember? BBM was very famous. It was the in thing. So they were chatting back and forth, and in no time, Mr. O introduced Cynthia to his friend. and they started chatting, and Cynthia was telling and these guys were telling Cynthia that they are also retailers. They also buy from the US, but they sell their clothes much cheaper, and the clothes are always available in Lagos. Cynthia was in Abuja. So they were convincing her that no, she doesn't have to wait for her stock to come all the way from the US. She can actually come and buy from them. They always have stock available because they have a great network that brings in the goods and at a lower price. So definitely she would be getting them cheaper from the boys. Cynthia was excited. So she organized a trip to go to Lagos to restock. Here's the thing. The boys or the men offered to host her. Really nice, hey? Very nice people. They offered to host her and she was comfortable with the idea. So yeah, on the 21st of August, no, on the 21st of July, 2021, Cynthia flew into Lagos from Abuja. The men waited for her and picked her up at the airport, and took her to a hotel in Lakeview. Wow. Very nice. They offered to entertain her and they gave her a drink. Unknown to Cynthia, the drink was laced with some prescription drug. It was a prescription drug, but if taken wrongly, it could knock you out. Okay? When the men realized that this drug was not having an effect on Cynthia at all, they decided, it's gonna take too long to get money out of this woman. Let's just go ahead and do it. So they started beating her up. They asked her for money. She said she didn't have money, which was very true. Cynthia was said never to move around with money or ATM cards. She always used checks wherever she went. So she didn't have money. She didn't have much cash on her. She didn't have an ATM card. So maybe they got angry, or maybe Cynthia was trying to fight. I don't know. But what then happened is that in the midst of it all, Cynthia was raped, beaten, stabbed, killed, and left in the hotel room. Just like that. 24-year-old Cynthia, with a huge bright future ahead of her, she was gone. Following day, 22nd of July, 2012. One of the men comes down and he is leaving, and the receptionist says, hello, are you staying longer? Because we need the key. And he says, no, my brother is still in the hotel. She's still in the room, so it's okay. And we're going to stay longer, actually. And then hours later, about around 10, the other guy comes. Mr. O comes down. Mr. O is asked, oh, say, the key, and are you checking out? Mr. O says, no, honey, we are not checking out. My girlfriend is still upstairs in the room. I'm just going to the ATM to get more money. We are out of cash, and I'm coming to pay more money because we are going to stay longer. Okay, so the receptionist reminds Mr. O that he has to check out by noon if he doesn't want to stay longer. But he says he's coming back. Cool. It's okay. So Mr. O goes out to the ATM. Yeah, he goes out to the ATM and he comes back. He sits by the bar. He's having a drink and his friend joins him. They're chatting a little while and then they left. Right. They left. After they left, the receptionist gets a phone call at about 3 in the afternoon from Mr. O. Mr. O says, listen, honey, I am not coming back. Please get that idiot out of my room. But remember, Mr. O was not a regular in this place. He was not a regular in this hotel. So that's why they kept asking him, are you coming? Are you doing this? Are you paying? Are you staying? Because he was not a regular. He was not a regular. Oh, before they even got the phone call, let me just say something. The receptionist called all the rooms just to check, are you guys staying? Are you guys checking out? So that they have the correct record of what room is taken up to what time and everything. When she was just about to call Mr. O's room, Mr. O came down the stairs. That's when he said he was staying and his girlfriend was still up in the room. The girlfriend he was talking about was Cynthia, or rather Cynthia's body. So fast forward. At 3 o'clock, the call comes in. Mr. O is instructing the receptionist that he is not coming back. He has no intentions of coming back. He's already left the city, and she must help him by getting the idiot out of the room. And then he said he wasn't paying either. Then he dropped the call. How rude. Yeah. Receptionist calls the hotel manager and tells the hotel manager this is the situation. The hotel manager says it's okay. The girlfriend is still up there. We didn't see her go out. So she's still in the room. She will pay. And the receptionist says, okay, that's fine. So she calls the girlfriend on the intercom. How embarrassing. On the intercom, and there's no response. She's calling Cynthia on the intercom and there's no response. So what does the receptionist do? She goes up to the room. She knocks several times. There is no response. She's knocking. There is no response. She informs the hotel manager, who authorizes her to use the master key to open the door. This was now in the afternoon. It's after 3 p.m. And this lady also wants to leave. She wants to hand over for the day. She's leaving. There's got to be somebody who's coming for the night shift. So she wants to make sure that everything is in order so that she knows how to hand over to the new receptionist for the night. So she goes up. She uses the master key to open the door. The scene she saw made her scream and ran out to call the hotel manager. So at the crime scene, which was the hotel room, Cynthia's body was found naked and lying on the bed. She was lying in a horizontal position and she was naked. Her hands were tied to the back using a brown tape. Her legs were also bound together using a brown tape. Her face was looking normal, but her mouth was also covered with a brown tape. Inside the mouth was a hairnet and a handkerchief, probably to stop her from screaming and calling out for help. That was the crime scene. So while all this is happening, Cynthia's mom is constantly calling and there's no answer. Remember these men, when they did this to Cynthia, they robbed her of her money, her passport, her phones, and everything else that she had, a driver's license. So there was just no way of identifying who this person was. This person had no ID, had no passport, had no driver's license. They couldn't identify who this was. So they took Cynthia's body and just put her in a morgue. Okay. Now Cynthia's mom is calling. For 5 days, Cynthia's mom was calling and there was no answer. Then one day, a man answered after 5 days and said Cynthia was not feeling well. And the mom said, are you sure she's okay? The man says, no, she's actually okay, but she's unwell. She cannot come to the phone. Okay, cool. And this man then realized, okay, this is Cynthia's mom. Let's milk her of the little money that she has. Oh, remember, these guys had done some investigation on Cynthia. They had actually been stalking her for months before they started talking to her, and they had discovered who she was, and they thought, okay, being a daughter of a retired general, a major general, they probably have money. And also they dug into her family. Cynthia was the last born and the only girl of 4 siblings. Her brother, she had 3 big brothers. These big brothers were doing very well. One was out of the country, the other one was a pilot, the other one was, I don't remember what he did, but he actually was doing very well for himself. So they thought, okay, this is our target, let's work with her. And then now let's do this is like the climax of things, right? So they called Cynthia's mom on day 7 after Cynthia had landed in Lagos, and they are asking her for 20 million naira. They told her they kidnapped her daughter and they want 20 million naira as ransom, or else they're going to kill her. So the mom asked, did you kill her already? And they said, no, we got her. She's okay. She's just not feeling well. But if you don't give us the money, we are just going to let her die. We're not going to help her to be fine. And that's when the parents realized that, nah, something was not right. Cynthia was probably not okay. So they made a missing persons report in Lagos. And that phone call was traced, and they found where the phone call came from. And then the police started doing their investigations, and that led them to the hotel, where they were then told about a body that was found in a hotel room and had no identification documents. Right. So when they found these 2 guys, Mr. O and his friend, they were arrested. Upon arresting, these guys decided to sing. They became birds and they started singing. They spoke about how they got to stalk Cynthia online, how they convinced her to come and buy from them, how they convinced her to come to the hotel, that they were going to host her, and everything and everything and everything and everything and everything. And also, unknown to these guys, the hotel had CCTV. So the receptionist was able to identify them, and to identify them on the lineup of suspects. Right. Now, this story rubbed in a lot of people. The first person that was rubbed in was the pharmacist. Why did he sell a prescription drug without a prescription? He was rubbed in. Secondly, the people that sold the phones on behalf of Mr. O and his friends, and his friend, they were rubbed in. The people that assisted Mr. O and his friend to hide while the police were looking for them, because these guys were only arrested in August. On August the 20th, that's when they were arrested. So a total of 6 people were arrested in connection with this murder, rape, armed robbery, whatever. What then happened is what is weird. After these guys were arrested and they were in the papers, women started coming and reporting that these guys did the same to them. The only reason they were not killed is they did not resist. But women claimed that they had been beaten up and they had been robbed by these guys. Some were robbed at gunpoint, some were robbed after being beaten, some were drugged. And others just willingly gave away their money because they didn't want problems. Okay? They started coming, these women started coming, these men started coming and reporting. And these guys confessed that they had done it to many, many, many women. But none of them had been killed except for Cynthia. Now, let's go to the investigations. The police tried to find out why Cynthia was killed while the other women survived. And they came up with the theory that maybe They killed Cynthia because they were angry, because they thought this was going to be a payday for them. This is a retired general major, general's daughter coming in, and she's coming to buy stuff for her boutique. She's probably loaded with money and jewelry and everything, but she had none of that. So they had spent so much on the hotel trying to impress her, trying to show her that they're business people and they mean business, which they didn't get back anything. So probably they got angry. That's the theory that the police have, because all the other women had survived to tell their stories, but Cynthia did not. Let's talk about the autopsy. Now, the autopsy showed that Cynthia died of suffocation. But there are things that were found on her body also. For starters, her lungs had what they call bloody accumulation. So her lungs weighed 450 and 500 grams each, instead of the normal 250 and 350 grams each. Yeah, so there was blood accumulation. So there was definitely some stabbing that happened there, and also there were lots of bruises on her body, suggesting that she was beaten up. There was semen found on her, suggesting that she was raped. So Cynthia was stabbed, Cynthia was raped, Cynthia was bound, Cynthia was killed and left just like that. And they didn't get much from her. They only got her 3 BlackBerry phones, a little cash that she had on her, her passport, and her driver's license. Who takes that? What for? What are your plans? Anyway, so when they were arrested, they were also taken to their place of residence where they were doing their crime. In their house, they found a lot of SIM cards, some which were used to call Cynthia's mother, some which were used to call Cynthia before. And they also found a laptop. And on the laptop, there were a number of accounts. There were a number of accounts, Facebook accounts, that were logged on, that were being used by these guys as different people. And they checked their history with Cynthia. They had deleted her as a friend. They had blocked her. There was no chat. There was nothing with Cynthia on Facebook. There was nothing linking them to Cynthia on Facebook. But they confessed that they met her on Facebook and that they deleted everything because they thought they were so smart. Also on the laptop, they found photos of Cynthia. Cynthia's dead body. The photos were on the laptop. Why? I don't know. Maybe it was like some victory thing that they felt that it was like what? A souvenir, something that they needed to look at every now and again and remind themselves that they can do it. They have done it before. I don't know why they had that. But anyway, in August of 2012, the trial for these guys started. Now there are 6 people, remember. We have people that sold the phones. We have the pharmacists. We have the murderers themselves. We have people that were doing this, trying to hide these guys. There's conspiracy. There's that. In total, there were 6 people that were on trial. And they were all found guilty. But obviously, our 2 friends had the worst of crimes. They had the worst of charges, murder. They were charged with administering some prescription drug without the knowledge and forcing somebody to take this drug, because if they're going to elicit in your drink without telling you, then they are forcing you to take it without your knowledge. And the pharmacist was obviously charged with selling a prescription drug without a prescription and without making sure that this thing is going to be used safely. And there were some boys that were found in possession of the phones and the passport, and they were trying to sell the passport actually. Weird. They were trying to sell this passport to somebody, and there were some people that were also found selling the phones. Okay, and the people that they sold these phones to, some of them were also involved in this trial. There were a bunch of witnesses that the prosecution brought to testify, including the receptionist, including the CCTV footage which showed these guys come in with Cynthia, which showed these boys leave without Cynthia. So they were the last people to be seen with her before she turned into a body. That's Nigeria for you. So there is actually a point of correction. The trial of the murder of Cynthia began in Lagos, Nigeria in February of 2013. And it was finalized in 2017. The two boys, Mr. O and his friend, Mr. E, were sentenced to death. They were both found guilty and were given the death penalty. The other friends who were accomplices and the pharmacist and all, they were all found guilty and handed down their sentences, which were prescribed for the crimes, but definitely not the death penalty. The death penalty was for the two friends that lured Cynthia on Facebook to the hotel where she eventually lost her life. So anyway, that is our story of the day. Yeah, that is our story of the day. I think it's just a warning for us to be careful who we chat with online and not believe everything that we see online. So guys, remember to stay safe, remember to do good out there and make wise decisions. Stay away from crime, because if you do crime, you are most likely to do the time.